rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome, everyone. We have such a special guest today with us. We've got Liza Rodewald from Instant Teams with us. And what she's done, raised a bunch of venture capital. She's grown a big business that's helping a lot of people, really serving the veteran community and the active service member community. You don't want to miss this episode, so stick around. Liza, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Devin. Happy to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. You know, for anyone to build a business as successful as Instant Teams is challenging. And you may not have perceived it, but I think there are also some extra challenges involved for women. And maybe that's even exaggerated in the military community. It seems like it might be. Tell us a little bit about your experience as a woman building a successful enterprise.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you know the statistics already of women raising venture capital. Less than 2% of venture capital goes to women-founded, women-led companies. So I was very fortunate to be able to do that myself. And I think some of the challenges along the way is building network, having access to those things. And I myself am also a military spouse. So I'm married to an active duty service member. So we move around a lot. So establishing a network and raising money from remote locations always presents a challenge. But ultimately, by focusing on building a strong network and plugging in wherever I was actually located, ultimately led me to the path that made me successful in the fundraising rounds.
Well, I appreciate you sharing some of your experience with us on that. Let's kind of step back now and tell us about Instant Teams. What is Instant Teams?
Sure. Instant Teams is a customer experience marketplace that connects companies to military spouse talent. We build the entire customer experience team for brands that are interested in improving their customer experience process. And we give those jobs back to the military spouse community. So mostly remote so that they can take their job with them every time they move.
That sounds like an incredibly valuable thing, because in part, it would seem like if you can create opportunities that have some continuity across moves, the career development path for spouses changes to parallel their military spouses. Is that what you're seeing?
For sure. So I actually had my own software company when I personally became a military spouse myself. So I was running a company remotely and came into the lifestyle, and every spouse would just ask me, how are you able to continue your career? How are you working in all these moves? And that's really what ignited my passion about helping to solve this problem, right? Because if you move every 2 to 3 years is the average. I personally moved 6 times in 7 years when I became a military spouse. So if I was climbing a traditional corporate ladder, I would constantly be starting over. But I am educated. I have a high skill set. I have a lot that I can give and contribute to the company within the right roles that can be more portable. And so that's the problem that kind of we saw, that companies just didn't know this demographic existed, and this demographic didn't really know how to connect to those types of companies and those types of roles that would be good fits for the lifestyle as well.
Well, it is just amazing what you're pulling off. Tell us a little bit about how it works. There's some magic. There's something special going on. How are you connecting great employers to these great team members?
Sure. So we focus a lot on the military spouse community side. So unlike some other companies that might be considered competitors to ours building these customer experience teams, we build community within the military spouse community. So we have an app just for military spouses called 12 Million Plus, where we give them resources, upskilling opportunities, the ability to connect with each other both through events and in person. We have a co-working space where they can come work on projects or work on their resumes, meet with recruiters, those types of things. So we really build the community side so that when we work with an employer, we work with a customer that wants to build a team out, we already have all of these warm connections with the military spouse community. We know what they're looking for. We know what kind of careers they're interested in. And that makes really great culture fits for the brands that we work with, building on their customer experience side.
Speaking of the brands, what are some examples of the hiring companies that you are working with on that other side of that equation?
Sure. So we work with middle market and enterprise brands. One of our customers' logos that you would recognize would be Aflac. So we've worked with bigger organizations like that. We work with smaller mid-market kind of tech companies, such as Expensify, building out those experience teams for them as well. So we can work small and large teams. We do have the teams on our payroll. So we have two ways we work with companies. One is pure marketplace. So you can come and you can hire 1 to 100 to 200 customer experience individuals from our talent marketplace, or we put them on our payroll and operate as a fully outsourced function for companies as well. So most of our brands will work with us in both ways.
That's really powerful. I mean, it's such a creative solution to some serious problems, but it's also allowing you to scale. Can you give us a hint as to how things are going?
Sure. So we launched in 2016. Just my co-founder and I were both military spouses that saw the problem and wanted to really create some good solutions on both the brand and the military spouse angle. We've grown to over 500 employees. We have over 68,000 military spouses in our platforms in the marketplace, transacting and working with enterprise and mid-market companies. And we've continued to grow and scale. And we're looking forward to just this next big push. We've made it to, a couple of the big multi-million-dollar milestones. And now we're pushing for, the larger milestones as well. So it's been a fun ride. Lots of work, as you mentioned, lots of ups and downs along there, but definitely product market fit and growing in the space.
Yeah. Well, I really admire what you're doing, but in part because I admire what you're doing so much, I wonder if you'd take a minute and think about some advice, especially for women entrepreneurs. There's some, the data, you mentioned it, right? 2% of venture capital or less going to women. And I wrote about that for Forbes over a decade ago, and it really hasn't moved, right? That statistic is flat as a pancake over a decade after acknowledging. So
yeah.
What are some tips for women to be more successful as entrepreneurs?
Well, one of the things that I learned early on is I think we're judged a little bit more on data and what's actually happening versus vision and where we think we can take the company. And so I learned early on when I was pitching instant teams, for example, if I lead without numbers, I'm automatically kind of put into a lifestyle business category, right? Because they're like, oh, you're helping the military spouse community. What a nice little niche, right? But the data is there's over 12 million active duty and veteran military spouses. There's hundreds of thousands of new military spouses created each year through new military enlistments. And so that in itself is a huge market. If I just employed 10% of them, I would be $1 billion company, right? So sizing the market up front and telling the story along with it outside of just telling the story first, I think made a huge difference in my personal success and being able to raise money.
That's a great point. My wife and I were chatting earlier today about how implicit bias can just totally derail the way humans operate, right? We assume things and it's hard to move us off an assumption. So you sort of have to be a little bit deliberate about moving, especially the men you're talking to.
Yes.
I sometimes wonder if maybe the women have the same biases, right? But we've got to be deliberate. Great, great
Right.
tip. What else would you suggest? Are there other tips that you could draw on for us?
Yeah, I think one of the other big reasons why I was able to be successful was really focusing on building the network. Because when I went out to raise money, I didn't know any investors. I actually went through the Founder Institute program as kind of my first step to building a network and started leveraging those relationships. And one thing that I have done that I think has helped is continually to grow those relationships, reporting back. Once I took my first dollars, I was always monthly reporting to all the investors to give them updates, to tell them what was going on. And so to really build that trust. And if you build that trust in the network, it does start to snowball. And I was able to draw on those relationships to each stage of raising. So I can actually trace back the closing of the Series A, the lead investor that I got introed to for our series that ended up leading the Series A round came all the way through my relationship that I started so many years before at the Founder Institute program. So that thread pulled all the way through. So I think concentrating on that and making sure you not only build relationships for transactions, but you keep them warm and you keep investing in them, because you never know like how those are going to lead to the next phases, the next things that you need, the next intro that you ask for.
That's really vitally important. I want to drill down on that just a little bit,
Mhm.
because I think, at some level we understand, oh yeah, we need to keep those contacts warm. We need to keep. How do you identify the key relationships? How do you track and manage? It has to be a little bit deliberate. It can't be casual, right?
Yeah, no, I still get so many intros daily that I have to have a system for it. And for raising money, I actually use Founder Suite software. So it was helpful to me to have just one piece of software I did just the relationships with. And the rest of it can be, spreadsheets and different things that you're used. But I had like one specific area that I focused on where I put those relationships, tracked that. And then the relationships that you kind of identify as value, that's tricky because sometimes you meet somebody and think, oh, I don't think there's any synergy here. And then maybe a couple of months later, run into them again or meet them at another event and something really clicks with that. So I would say never burn bridges, no matter what. And then, keep in contact with everyone you contact. So I always sent out a monthly supporters email. So if I met somebody, we had a good connection, I just put them as a supporter and then just send them general updates. And then once I started taking money, I made sure I sent investors monthly updates. Now I do them quarterly, but if anything happens substantial in the business, I send all the investors a note. And I even just heard this yesterday. I was on a call and one of the investors says, nobody does that, Liza. Like when you sent the email with that update, I knew that you were the right CEO. And it just surprises me that more people don't do it. So it's something simple that you can do, but it makes a big difference and did help me to stand out.
Yeah. As a CEO, I can tell you it's hard. It's hard to be Liza, right? To be like Liza. That's tricky for all of us, I think,
Yeah.
to stay in touch. And sometimes the news isn't good. You
Right.
may not have had that experience, but
Well,
some of the rest of us have experience.
I have had that experience, which was in reference to what he said back to me, because he was like, most people try to hide that, but you were just upfront with it right at the beginning. And I was like, oh, I didn't know I had a choice. I thought that's how everybody does it, right?
Yeah.
So like, this is
It's
just
the way we should do it.
Yeah, but it was confirmation to me that I'm on the right track, doing the right thing. And that's what builds trust, right? Like if you just tell people the good stuff and you don't have the bad stuff or what is going on as a whole, then they don't trust you as much, because they know, most investors know, not everything is a straight hockey stick up, right? There's always inflections. There's always things happening that you have to face. And so when you're honest with them, I think they feel better. They're like, oh, good, she's telling us what's actually happening versus what's actually going on under the hood that we're not hearing about.
Yeah. That's really cool. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. So hang on, Liza. Folks, I'm here today with Liza Rodewald. She is the CEO and founder of Instant Teams, a seriously successful venture-backed enterprise that supports the spouses of military service members. So we're just having a great conversation. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Liza about her superpower. You don't want to miss this, so stick around.
You can get in on the ground floor to help fix the climate crisis for as little as $100. Pause now to scan the QR code to get started or visit s4g.biz/raisegreen. You can be a green at Raise Green.
Want to learn from the world's great change makers? Find your superpower. Subscribe to the Superpowers for Good newsletter at superpowersforgood.com. Make your strengths into superpowers that will change the world. Join the super crowd today. Superpowers4good.com.
Hope to raise money from the impact crowd. Good investors are as interested in community, social or environmental impact as you. Connect with Funding Hope, an SEC-registered FINRA member crowdfunding portal to learn how to raise capital from the impact crowd. Scan the QR code now.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with Liza Rodewald. She's the CEO and founder of Instant Teams, a very successful venture-backed enterprise growing quickly in support of military spouses. So we've just been having a great conversation, but we're going to shift gears to talk about her superpower. So stick around for this. You don't want to miss it. Liza, you know what you've done, and you're kind of a serial entrepreneur. This is not your first rodeo. You've built something really successful, growing, succeeding, making a difference. That's important to me. I admire that. And you've done this kind of thing before. What is your superpower?
That's a great question. I thought about that a lot on the show. Because there's different levels and different types of superpowers of things that I've ultimately be able to do with the company. But I think my ultimate superpower is really stepping back and seeing big picture, either problems, issues, and then figuring out how to move the puzzle pieces to create a real solution to the problem. And I started that as an engineer. That was my first job. And what I loved about creating software was that it really helping people and solving a problem brings me lots of joy. When I solve a problem for somebody and it helps them, that's what really fulfills me. And so everything that I've done, every business I've built, and Instant Teams being the largest, the most successful one, the one I've raised money for, that thread continues. Like when I became a military spouse, I have a real passion for women to be able to manage their careers, still have family life, be able to have all the things that they want. And then I've always been an advocate for that. But when I became a spouse, and the military community has an even bigger disadvantage because they're moving around so much, they don't have family around to support them. They're oftentimes in areas that are really remote, that you're not in like a big city, you don't have access to big companies for job opportunities. And when I saw that, to me, I'm like, okay, this group, 90% female, highly talented, highly educated, and they're really looking to maintain a career. Like, how do I help solve that problem, right? And then where do I connect the companies into that equation? What problem can I solve for the companies? So I think just that passion of building something that helps people has always been my superpower, and it takes on a different form. It has taken on different forms, but ultimately at Instant Teams, it's to really solve the 26% unemployment rate in the military spouse community. So these are actively seeking individuals looking for work that cannot find it for all these different reasons that I laid out. So having that passion is really what I would probably describe as my superpower, because that's the thing that makes me run through the brick walls, right? Which is what you got to do when you're building a business.
Yeah, that's really a wonderful, powerful superpower. passion for helping people. I admire that, and I love that you've been able to channel that into a business success, and not just help people one off, but by creating systems, you've been able to really scale that. I wonder. I mean, obviously, you've used instant teams as a clear example of how your superpower works. I wonder if we could get just a little more specific and talk about a person or an event where you kind of leverage this instinct to help people to accomplish something that was helpful.
Sure. So one of the things that I've done is open up this space that you see me in right now. It's our co-working space in Southern Pines. And I put this here so that military spouses in the area can come in and find out about opportunities and things that we have so we can really connect in person. So we did have a military spouse come in and was really struggling with her current job that wasn't able to really be flexible with her lifestyle, what she needed. She was ultimately in tears over the situation. And that day we were actually able to connect her with one of our job opportunities. And she works on that account now and is still here and comes into the office and has been just grateful for the lifestyle change that she's been able to have. But those are the kinds of connections, again, that, right place, right time, right solution, that really fuel me in keeping going, right? Because most of what we do is remote. And so you don't necessarily see it in person, but having this physical space has allowed me to meet a lot of the spouses in person and direct them straight to the opportunity, which it's been really fun to see in this mostly kind of virtual world we live in.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I love that example. Such a human experience. I think a lot of us, I know certainly I struggle with that intersection of helping people and building a business. And you've done that so well. I admire that. I'm grateful to have you on the show just to learn from you. What tips can you offer to help people sort of channel? I think most of us have a bit of altruism built in, but it atrophies if we don't leverage it. We don't know how to employ it in business. Give us some tips, guidance on how to be a little more Liza Rodewald.
Well, I don't know that I'm, totally killing it. There's definitely times when you feel like you're failing, especially when you feel so passionate about the mission. Like, we're still a business, so I still have to make sure we're operating efficiently, that we have the right people in the right roles. And when you're such a mission-oriented company, I do think people hold a higher standard to you as well as to how you're going to react. We hire military spouses. We do have to let military spouses go sometimes, because not fit for the job, or this job ends and things like that. So you have to be realistic with yourself, I guess is my tip. There is always a balance, but if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're doing the right thing. That's my moral compass that I guide everything on. I know ultimately I'm doing the right thing. I have the right motive. I have the right attitude about it. It may be a hard decision I have to make, but it's the right decision. And it's the right decision for the scalability of the company, the scalability of the people that I can help. And sometimes you have to weigh those things with decisions that are hard. And that just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah. I remember as a CFO, one of the agonizing processes we had to go through in one company was a round of layoff. It was painful. As painful as it was for me, I have to remember it was more painful for the people we laid off. But
right. Yes.
But you have to build a profitable business. It's challenging. Well, listen, Liza, before we wrap up, I wonder if you just take a minute and tell people how they can learn more about instant teams and how they can. I know people admire you. They love you. They want to be like you. They want to follow you on Instagram and see the pretty pictures. But tell us how people can learn more about connecting with you and how they can learn more about instant teams. And for those companies that may be hiring, how they can do that, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So if you want to connect with me personally, obviously I'm on LinkedIn. Liza Rodewald is my LinkedIn, all one word. So you can just take it from the screen and connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to have a conversation there. You can also go to our website, instantteams.com. There's a contact us button on there. That'll go to my sales team if you're interested in learning more about creating a customer experience team with Instant Teams with military spouses. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that and my team as well. And finally, if you're a military spouse or veteran watching and you're looking for a job opportunity, you can also go to instantteams.com. And we're on all the social platforms, major social platforms. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. We wish you every success.
Thank you so much, Devin. This has been great.
All righty. Let's do some good.
All right.